Some of the most sought after plants are variegated, but where does variegation come from? Does it happen naturally, or are humans creating it? We'll discover how some plants create variegation to defend themselves, how sometimes it happens randomly, and how some of it is being artificially induced. This is the story of how plants become variegated. In recent years, specific variegations have been thought to have been created as an adaptation to predators, and some are thought to have specific purposes. Of course, we'll never know Mother Nature's exact intention, but plants seem to be more clever than we give them credit for. For instance, this endangered, extremely rare, and absolutely stunning orchid native to China. This plant looks like it caught some type of black mold, but those spots have developed for the evolutionary purpose of reproducing. It's thought that the black variegated circles are mimicking a fungus the plant has contracted, and because of this, it attracts a fly which will pollinate its flower. Even the flower has the same type of dots on it. I know it sounds far-fetched, but researchers caught a fly being drawn into the flower, mapped its route, and then collected the fly, which had a sac of pollen attached to its body, ready to pollinate another flower with it. Leaf variegation can also reduce the risk of being eaten by animals. In a caladium native to Ecuador, a variegated version of the plant comprises 1/3 of the population, and 2/3 of the plant are just normal plain green. Leaves of both are frequently attacked by mining moth caterpillars, but scientists noticed something different about the variegated versions of the caladium. They were being eaten less by the moth miners, about 4 to 12 times less than their green counterparts. After the leaf miners ate the caladium leaves, the leaves began to resemble the variegated versions of the plant. The researchers hypothesized that the mining moths would bypass the variegated leaves, thinking that they had already been eaten. So they did something very creative. They put whiteout, or Tipex if you're European, on the leaves of the all-green version of the plant. To be sure, it wasn't the chemicals deterring the moth larvae. They also used a clear version of the correcting fluid to control for this. After 3 months, they came back to the shocking results. Of the over 3,000 plants a part of the study, the clear painted leaves had a 9% infestation rate, the highest rate. The all-green plants without any variegation had an 8% infestation rate. But in the naturally variegated leaves, only 1.5% of those were infested. And in the lowest infestation rate were the leaves painted with whiteout. Only 0.5% of those plants were infested. So it does seem that the leaf mining moths would keep it moving past the leaves with any sort of markings or damage and only go after the fresh and unmarked leaves. But sometimes variegation seems to spontaneously occur without any apparent utility, like in the case of many high-value ornamental plants. We consider these to be natural mutants, a 1 in a million chance that a Monstera deliciosa seed is different from the rest of the stock. It's what we all dream of coming across when we're at our local big box store in the houseplant section. Tyler Thrasher's Sport Hunting Guide shows off some of these spontaneously occurring variegations. It's completely unknown why these color changes occur, but it's theorized that environmental stresses such as light, temperature, pest stress, heavy metals, and chemical exposure can create these unique plants. Thrasher's Sport is one of the most eccentric and distinct examples of a Monstera deliciosa, which seems to produce various colors including white, mint, green, yellow, and in a variety of patterns. Tyler describes having found this Monstera at a plant shop in 2016. Nearly all standard green Monstera deliciosa that you'd find at your local plant shop is seed grown, so this plant was also likely grown from seed. A single specimen that grew out differently from the rest, the right balance of green to variegated portions, and in the right ratios. Enough to be beautiful, but not too much variegation which might hurt the plant's ability to feed itself, the Goldilocks amount of variegation. Finding these unicorns which lack some ability to produce chlorophyll has become a hobby for some plant hunters, hitting their local Costco, Trader Joe's, or other big box stores, where a unique sport has flown under the radar from customers and employees alike. In some of the early stage submissions to the sport hunting database, you can see the juvenile teacup shaped leaves of the deliciosa, which only occur a few months after seed germination, confirming that these plants did come from seed, not from cuttings. This exact yellow expressing specimen has only 2 leaves and has likely only been alive for a few months since germination. The first true leaf shows a half moon variegation in an aurea-like coloring, and the second leaf shows full green, showing the fickle nature of these unicorns. Another young Monstera shows off a green-on-green variegation and is likely under a year or two old. Quite possibly my favorite story of sport hunting from the site is that of Elizabeth Taylor, who came across a green-on-green Aurea-like colored Monstera in Walmart. From the account, the three-leaf Monstera was found inside a Walmart and is now fondly referred to as Walmarea, an incredibly creative name, and has produced over 9 variegated leaves consistently. In these sports, the variegation is random and unintended to our knowledge. But can humans induce this? Of course we can. Well, at least we've tried. There's a variety of tactics used to induce variegation. Also, many of these techniques are closely guarded trade secrets, not simply disclosed in patent filings, which make you describe your exact process for creating the mutations. As discussed in our previous video, gamma ray radiation exposure is a technique employed to produce mutations in plants and was used to create UFM12, aka Epipremnum, jade, and pearls, a patented plant. From the patent filing photos, a flecked version of Pothos enjoy was created after exposing another variegated Pothos to cobalt-60, a radioactive isotope created in a nuclear reactor. The gamma rays received by the plants alter their genetics and produce new plants with different traits, such as light blue morning glory flowers, or a dwarf buckwheat crop, and even a yellow version of the food crop. Many countries have created what are called gamma greenhouses, or gamma rooms, which expose the plants to varying levels of radiation, typically in a circular format. Malaysia, Korea, and Japan all employ these techniques to force plants to mutate. Katsayar University in Bangkok, one of the early connections to Thai constellation tissue culture production, just released a groundbreaking study explaining how to induce variegation in an aquatic plant, Anubias, which happens to be a member of Aroids. Now, before any of you run out and order cobalt-60 off of Amazon, remember that this is a radioactive synthetic isotope that is extremely dangerous and can kill you. Do not play stupid games. And obviously Amazon doesn't sell it. The study outlines how over 300 tissue culture unvariegated Anubias minima were subjected to different levels of radiation for 2 months. It was found that the more radiation the plants were subjected to, the more variegation was created. It also slowed down how much they grew. The results are quite cool to look at. The radiation effectively interrupted the plant's ability to produce chlorophyll. The patterns of variegation definitely look man-made, like the leaves were almost wiped away with acetone to remove the chlorophyll. But the higher gamma exposure do have a white monster effect to them. But the variegation was stably reproduced over 10 generations of tissue culture, and is what we see here in the photo of the leaves. Though I couldn't find proof of it, I have a theory that there's a specific chemical or radiation being applied to create the galaxy-like variegation we see so much in the Aroid community. We see this in the Green Congo Galaxy, White Knight, White Princess, Pink Princess, and of course in the Thai constellation. They are all tissue culture produced plants, so perhaps it's a chemical being added at that stage. But again, I'm sure this method for creating this is a heavily guarded trade secret. What do you think? Do you prefer a natural mutation that is the luck of the draw, or a man-made induced version of variegation? Thank you for watching this week's video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. We really appreciate it.